Alawapa, dear friends. My name is Xavier, and you are watching Oh God Guide Me. Today, we are joined by Niv Sabri. Hello, Niv. And today, we're going to be talking about what drew her to the faith and the teachings of Baha'u'llah. So, Niv, how are you? First of all, tell us about where you live and what you do.
So I'm from the beautiful country of Canada, originally from India. And I am an engineer by profession. I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. I felt it was a noble career. Well, that's not true, actually. I knew I wanted to do something that was with my hands. Like I wanted to design or create or something like that. And I explored a lot of different career options. And after a lot of consideration, I realized engineering is for me because I like working with my hands.
Very cool, very cool. A lot of engineer friends, and it's a good line of work. A lot of helpfulness to society, really, it is.
Yep.
They build
I
our
think
structure and foundations.
In Canada, and this is sorry to interrupt you, the something that I guess worldwide is not known is in Canada we have something called an iron ring ceremony. So when you graduate, you get an iron ring, and I'm not wearing it right now, but you wear it on your pinky, and it's supposed to remind you of your duty as an engineer. Essentially, cool. That if you make a mistake, that when a doctor makes a mistake, it typically only affects one person, but when an engineer makes a mistake, it can affect a large amount of people. So just the
they use the examples of like the swaying bridge and the collapsing building and all that.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So I didn't know about the iron ring though. That's interesting. Something nice to learn.
Yeah.
Always learn something new.
Yay.
All right. So you're from Canada. You do engineering. So let's get down to it. What brought you to the Baha'i faith? Where did you learn about it or hear first about it?
In my first year of engineering.
So
it all ties together. This is an interesting story. I was in school. So my parents are originally Hindu. Okay. And I grew up in a sect of Hinduism that focused very much on service to mankind and universalism. However, when we moved to Canada, I found that my parents were just too busy being immigrants and trying to work for us. And so I didn't really understand the prayers, and I had a connection with God, but I never really knew what I was saying because all the prayers were in Sanskrit. And, bless my parents, they tried to explain as much as they could with the time that they had, but they just didn't have the time that I needed to understand. So I started seeking, I want to say in the first year of university, I was really, really seeking for, what's the meaning of life? What's my purpose? What's the purpose of religion in my life? And
those big college questions.
Like the ones that really define who you are as a young adult, I think. I started asking those questions and really investigating the truth for myself. And in first year, I met a young basketball loving friend who I just remember him walking towards me, and he had this aura, like a light. And that's how I remember it. And I was like, there's something different about him. And I was like, I need to know more. So of course, the first thing I do when I want to know somebody is I make a joke about what they're wearing. And he was wearing a basketball jersey, and basketball is huge in Canada. Toronto Raptors, we won, we're the champs.
Okay.
And so he was wearing a jersey, and I made fun of him, and he was like, what the heck, who is this girl? And we became really good friends. He was also studying engineering, and him and I asked him, where are you from? And he said, Iran. And I automatically assumed, okay, you must be Muslim. And then I was like, but he never really said much. And then I was like, okay, what religion do you follow? And he's like, the Baha'i faith. And I was like, what the heck is this? I have never heard of this. And I'm from India. We have the Lotus Temple in India. It is a large, I had never heard of the Lotus Temple before I, started really researching.
Oh, wow.
And then I went home and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I met this guy. He's a friend of mine, and he's a Baha'i, and I don't know what it means. And she's like, okay, let's look it up together. And so her and I, like, she did a Google search,
Uh-huh.
and I'm terrible at reading things. Like I like pictures, I like visual things, so I don't read. My mom loves reading, so she's reading, and she's like, I think this is what you've been searching for.
Oh wow! So your mom was like,
Yeah.
Come here, this is yours.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, didn't think anything of it. I was like, whatever.
That's
I'll
great.
figure it out.
That's great that your mother did that, because a lot of the times, parents, no offense to parents, especially when it comes to beliefs, they can be like, no, you follow us. But your mother was like, hey, here's something that you might agree with personally.
Yeah,
and that's really great that
exactly.
she was able to do that for you.
Yeah. And so I, ironically, through my friend, did not learn much about the faith. He doesn't like talking about it much.
Mhm.
And everyone's different, right? Like some folks like to disclose a lot of information about their faith. Some people are just more private and live by example. And he is one of those. And I started engaging in the Campus Association of Baha'i Studies and going to some of the events on campus, like where they talked about the importance of science and religion, or the essential harmony of science and religion. And I was like, and the oneness of mankind and the universal peace, that we need, and service to humanity is service to God. And all of that made sense to me. And one day I decided to declare. I was just like, yeah, you know what? I feel it. Like, I feel it in my heart. And so my Baha'i card, which you no longer get, actually got mailed to my home. And I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, what are my parents going to say? And it was an irrational fear. Like, my mom is the one that told me, this is for you. But I was like, how am I going to tell them that I don't identify as a Hindu anymore? But really I do, because even now I'm like studying my faith,
the Bhagavad Gita.
The Bhagavad Gita, because I want to know more about it, because the Baha'i faith believes in all the prophets of God, which is Krishna, Buddha, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. And then
so the Baha'i faith has sort of brought a higher understanding of Hinduism for you, and closer to your Hindu roots.
Yep, absolutely.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That's wonderful.
So that's
that's the importance of the teachings of Baha'u'llah, is not that only the Baha'i faith is correct. It's that all the religions are from the one same God, and that they progressively are revealed to mankind. And, they each bring, taken separately, they all bring a different view to the same thing. And then you can learn more in depth about each one of them, with the knowledge that all of them are from God.
I've heard someone joke around that it's like a software upgrade. Like,
exactly.
Like every time humanity needs a new upgrade because of some sort of moral decline, we get a new messenger of God. And he's like, okay, here's the new update from God.
Yep,
so I find that really funny and relatable, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So after declaring, what changes came into your life? Any significant differences, or was it, business as usual?
It's a journey. And I know that sounds very fluffy, but I feel like everyone is on a different spiritual path, Baha'i or not.
Oh, of course. And
there's been moments where I've been very close to the faith. And then there's been moments where I've questioned it again and been like, what are the words really saying from the writings of Baha'u'llah and from Abdul Baha? And like, what does it really mean to live a Baha'i life? And I have found the biggest teaching for me is one, knowing yourself, knowing what your values are, and making sure those values are in line with the faith for me. Again, all of my actions, like living in moderation and giving generously, and those are some of the values that I live by. And I have a long way to go, and a long life to live, hopefully.
Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm nowhere near perfect. But all I know is that it's every time I've strayed away from the faith, I've made bad choices.
Uh-huh.
And what has brought me back has been really reading the writings and understanding and reflecting on what it means, and not just praying, but really reflecting on my actions.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's self-reflection. And that's what brings, that's one of the important aspects of the Baha'i faith, is that individual recognition of what you do and what you're responsible for. In previous dispensations or religions, sometimes it can be kind of played off as, you know, it's not your responsibility. It's the work of, like, say, the devil, or et cetera, but it really brings that personal responsibility to you, and, you know, you recognize that.
Yeah. And I think the concept of, like, the connection that you have is between yourself and the messenger of God, and yourself and God himself, or herself, or whatever power that might be that you're connecting to, without the interference of clergy or imams, or your parents, or, you know, spiritual leaders, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
That it's truly like your connection or covenant, I guess, with Baha'u'llah for me, and then for God. That made a big difference, because, again, I'm comparing it to Hinduism, where there are a lot of priests and a lot of pundits, as you call them, like in our faith, in the Hindu faith. And I found it really neat that Baha'i faith doesn't really have that. Middleman, if you will.
Yeah, there's no middleman. It's a direct relationship between you and God.
Exactly.
And that's part of the covenant of Baha'u'llah, in that, you know, it's up to us to recognize him, not only to recognize him, but then to follow the teachings and be beholden to ourselves.
Yep.
So that's great. Let's see, what activities are you involved in now that you're a Baha'i? What kind of, you know, what kind of stuff do you do now in the Baha'i community?
I guess to maybe backtrack a little bit, like, because when I first started, the obvious activity for me to jump into was Ruhi, book 1.
Okay, Ruhi.
Kind of the foundations of the faith, and setting the firmness of, you know.
Oh yeah, it's always a great place to start, is the Ruhi books.
Yeah, like, so the study circles were really important to me to learn from other people. And then what I started doing next, again through the Ruhi Institute, was children's classes in my previous town. And I never had that growing up. Like, you know, I was in daycare. And so learning through children's classes as an adult was really neat. Like, I felt like a child again.
Yeah, wow, what an experience that would be, to be able to do that and, you know, get it for the first time.
Yeah, like through songs and crafts, and like really releasing that, or creating that connection with God for me, as a new Baha'i, as a baby Baha'i. And then now in my town, what I do is I animate my junior youth group with a few other animators in town, and
very nice,
and Ruhi books as well, like whenever we can. Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. So you're really involved in the community there, it sounds like.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not just through Baha'i activities too. Sometimes it's just doing a service project because you can, because you want to, because it's the right thing to do. I have lots of friends that aren't Baha'is that do service projects with me. Like, there's no label to do service. You don't need to be a Baha'i to do service.
Oh, absolutely.
You need to have the heart to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Service can come from anywhere, and so it's that deeds, not words, be adorning sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's great. That's wonderful. You're very involved in your community, it sounds. How long have you been a Baha'i?
Let me check, because in my prayer book, the assembly actually signed. So 2010, December 2nd, 2010 was when I got my prayer book.
Oh,
so about 10 years, I guess. Oh my God, a century of being a Baha'i.
A decade.
Sorry, a century. I'd be dead. Yeah, a decade.
This last decade has felt like a century. Woo! There's been some stuff going on here.
The last 3 months has felt like a century.
This last 3 months has been quite the century.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's funny.
That's wonderful. So yeah, we got all that the basic stuff covered. That's great. Anything else you want to share that you feel is really important to you in the Baha'i faith, an aspect of it, or something that really stands out to you that you just truly enjoy or think is important?
I think my biggest learning, I just went on pilgrimage.
Oh,
yeah.
how beautiful.
I know.
I
it
have
was
not been
the
on
best.
pilgrimage yet myself, unfortunately, but one day.
I will pray that you get to go, because
thank you.
it was truly I can't even explain it in words. Like, it was just, I went there and I was lost. I had no idea what I was doing there. 'Cause I'm like, this is not what I'm used to. I'm used to going to temples with my grandma. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that was my connection with God as a kid. Going to all these different temples in Kerala with my grandma, and it was scorching sun, and I was like, oh, this is like, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I felt that way all over again when I went to pilgrimage, and I was like, and let me tell you, like, the 9 days that I spent there and the people that I met from all over the world, and the trust and the love and the friendliness that was there, I can't describe, like, in words what that feels like. But all I know is when I came back, I had this like fire in me that just cannot be like kindled, of like wanting that feeling for everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I've heard so many people describe the pilgrimage as, this such diversity and unity and just an absolute loving kindness from everybody around them, and that those are the goals of the Baha'i faith. They truly are, for the entire world, is to bring all these different cultural backgrounds and these diversities, and just interact with them, no matter who or where you're from, with just such a loving kindness, and that we just radiate from everybody. And that's the kind of world the teachings of Baha'u'llah are trying to bring to the people of the world.
I think the exact words that I remember reading is, "Ye are the branches of one tree and the drops of one ocean." I might be paraphrasing that, but that is truly
flowers of one garden.
Flowers of one garden. That is truly how I felt. Like, I felt those words there.
Wow.
And so bringing that back to my town and just making every day beautiful.
Amazing.
How I felt is what I want to do.
Well, that's amazing. That sounds absolutely wonderful.
This
has been such a wonderful interview. Thank you so much. I'm honored to have had you.
Oh, thank you. I think this is so great what you're doing, by the way, just getting different perspectives from people all over the world.
Well, people have been so responsive to it. There's so many people who want to share their stories just like you, and with the world. And so hopefully this is the platform, and many others, that will get that message of Baha'u'llah out and get those stories out to help people, what people have gone through in life. It has been wonderful, meeting with you and talking with you today. And so I know you have your own YouTube channel where you did, what is it you did on there? It was
so
one video so far. Kind of really cool.
My one video, and it wasn't just my video. It was honestly, truly a collection of efforts by just amazing women that I know in my life. And it was for International Women's Day. And essentially what the video was, it's a song, it's a cover to a song, Girls on Fire by Alicia Keys. And we changed that is actually a fire song too. So we changed the lyrics of the song. My girlfriend Haifa, beautiful voice, sang for us. And then we had a female rapper who's also a scientist during the day and a rapper by night. Like, she's just amazing.
Very cool.
And it was just about truly the importance of educating. Like, education can change the world, and specifically education for women. And it was to raise awareness for the Mona Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to share this video
Yeah, absolutely.
to
You
help
guys can
promote
check
the
that
Moana
out.
Foundation.
It'll be a link in the description that you can check out. And so that's going to be it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. You know how it is. And don't be afraid to follow us on Instagram. Links in the description. And you have a wonderful day. Aloha and goodbye.